Hi guys, Obi Dave here.
And I am Matt.
Together we are Obi Dave and I Mash. I've been dying to sneeze for about 7 minutes and I'm fighting it to the death.
I know.
I really am.
And I forgot to bring my phone. Someone in the comments reworded my song and it was genius.
Did they?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
It was absolute gold. I've seen it. There's 2 of them actually, and I will find them and I will learn them and I will sing them.
Well, I'm going to get back on the guitar playing soon. I'm actually, for the first time, well, every couple of years I have a little pang where I'm like, I need to start just playing a little bit again. And then it either lasts like 5 or 6 times or 2. But we'll see, because if you've noticed, I've been twiddling my thumbs a bit more than usual recently.
You have.
And like, I'm just kind of itching to do something.
Yeah.
And I don't want to start gaming, even though I've bought a new game.
No.
I can pick that up and put it down. I'm not too invested.
Whereas I would like to relearn bass. I'd like to get back into it. But I'd also like to do some gaming. But my crochet has taken over my life at the moment. I am literally making an army of blueies. They have become my biggest seller.
Brewdog Blackheart Stout. Blackheart Stout. Sorry, that sounds so much better in my head. Right then, we're going to do Fat Files. It was supposed to be Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun.
It was not.
And in my head, it sounded amazing. And, you know.
Sounded like you should have said giggity at the end.
Got too many empty cans down here and stuff. Right then, America's Raisin Cartel. Do you think it's raisins like in the South Park way, where it's Hooters, but it's like the kids' version called Raisins?
No. I don't know. I think it is to do with actual raisins.
Do you think it's to do with that cartoon, the Californian Raisins, that used to be on years ago?
Never heard of it.
You never heard of it? Let me see if I can get a picture. There are some now that say it was
creepy as hell. Is that stop animation?
Well, the one I used to watch was a cartoon, but they may have done stop motion animation as well.
Good spelling on raisins.
There's
there's the cartoon. IMDb.
I've heard people. I've not watched it since I was a kid, but I've heard people say it is one of the most racist things you can watch nowadays.
It doesn't surprise me. The back in the day cartoons, like I said, when I rewatched a whole bunch of things when I got Disney, you know, the free trial.
Yeah.
I went back to the old cartoons and I sat there as an adult going, oh my God.
I'm not saying it's racist because I've got no idea because I've not watched it since I was probably about 10.
You don't know until you rewatch it.
And nowadays people are trying to cancel everything for being racist or sexist or, you know, whatever, aren't they? So maybe it's perfectly fine. Let us know. Should we do it?
Yes.
I'm gonna...
You didn't say what you thought.
I think, actually, it's going to be whoever, like, one big corporate entity that basically controls raisin growing in the States.
I mean, grape growing, because raisins are...
You absolute wanker.
I'm enjoying winding you up.
I want to know what it says on his t-shirt because all I can read is my autism.
My autism.
Oh, hates communism. Didn't we see that on a different one?
Yeah.
My autism hates communism.
If I got you that for your birthday, would you wear it?
100%.
Okay.
I have been wearing my Fat Electrician t-shirt all weekend.
You have.
But we went for an all-you-can-eat buffet yesterday and it didn't survive. It's in the wash. Should we do it?
Yeah.
America's Raisin Cartel. Let's go.
I'm going to be honest with you, I take a little bit of pride in the fact that I don't think I've ever engaged in just downright clickbait with an absurd title that has nothing to do with the video, and I'm not going to start today. This is absolutely real. Today we're talking about the United States Raisin Cartel, an entity that is so powerful at its peak, was able to confiscate half of a farmer's crop and pay them absolutely nothing in return. This entity was so powerful and so ingrained in the US system that it took a 13-year legal battle going all the way to the Supreme Court twice before it could be overturned. And we're going to get into it right after a word from our sponsor. Yes, sweetheart.
Where are you?
Fishing, just like you told me to.
Where? I mean, your truck is still here.
I'm just upstairs playing Fishing Clash. It's too cold outside.
Nicholas.
What?
Don't you live in Texas?
I told you I wanted real fish tonight.
It gets cold in
your
Texas.
game.
Oh,
It snows in
I thought you
Texas.
just wanted me to have fun.
Not cold.
No,
cold.
never. I can't can't
It
eat your
snows in
imaginary
Texas.
fish,
It
just like I
did.
can't spend your
Once.
imaginary internet money.
It snows
First of
in
all,
Texas.
Bitcoin is real.
Whatever, your mother.
That time they had crazy blizzards and stuff in Texas, there was no power because the infrastructure wasn't geared up for weather like that.
No, but that was extreme snow. But they do get snow every year. It may not stick.
Let us know how often it snows in Texas.
Mother's coming over
I know
soon, so
Texas
just go
is
to
a
the
big
store and get some
place.
fish.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Never gonna get laid.
You forgot to hang up, and if you want to get laid more, you gotta last more than 2 minutes.
Okay, first of all, last night doesn't count. It was doggy style, so that's technically 14 minutes, okay? Show some respect.
Gosh. Goodbye.
Bye,
I love the
Fishing
logic.
Clash lets you catch
That's
way
so
more
clever.
fish than you ever could in real life from all over the world, all in the comfort of your own home. Not only that, but Fishing Clash is completely customizable, allowing you to unlock and upgrade all of your equipment and even building your own fishing village.
quite
They also have
realistic.
daily and weekly events allowing you to compete against other people. But you don't just have to play with random strangers on the internet, you can actually join or make your own clan and play with your friends. In addition to that, they're always adding new features like customizable boats and the Versus Arena. And when you use my discount code FATFILES, you're gonna get $20 worth of free equipment and power-ups right out of the gate. So if you want to give Fishing Clash a try, I'm gonna have a link and a code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, so generally speaking, whenever you end up somewhere stupid, like, I don't know, having a Raisin Cartel, it's usually pretty beneficial to understand how you got to that ridiculous point so that we could never ever do it again. So we're gonna take it from the top. So our story begins in the 1930s during the Great Depression. Americans are poor and they're starving. So in 1932, they elect a new president, FDR, that is supposedly gonna be able to turn this entire thing around. So once he gets into office, he pretty much immediately leaps into action, or wheels into action, issuing a ton of new economic policies, most of which were done through executive order. These policies are usually all lumped together and referred to as the New Deal. Now, if you talk to somebody that was alive during this period of time, a lot of those people believe that the New Deal policies is actually what pulled America out of the Great Depression. And then if you talk to a lot of different historians or economists, they believe that the New Deal policies actually prolonged the Great Depression. Regardless, the policy that we're focusing on today is the AAA, or the Agricultural
It's interesting that the people clash about that.
Wasn't it funny that the Great Depression in the 1930s, the world's foremost global superpower after the Second World War? Because a lot of people say we were the global superpower in Britain, but then we sort of handed the baton to America.
But we got
because,
smashed to bits during the Second World War. We were in huge deficit.
yeah, and we were
It took us a huge amount to obviously recover from that too. I don't think we ever did.
No, Germany did all right. So did Japan, actually, weirdly.
I know.
prolonged the Great Depression. Regardless, the policy that we're focusing on today is the AAA, or the Agricultural Adjustment Act, that happened in 1933. Now, what the Agricultural Adjustment Act attempted to address was the fact that pretty much nobody in America had any money for basically anything, including food. That meant if they couldn't buy food, demand went down, which meant the prices went down, which meant the farmers were making less money. And obviously that makes business very hard for the farmers, and some of them were going to go out of business and they weren't going to be able to keep up their operation, and we can't allow that to happen because then everybody's going to starve to death. So the policy's intent was to solve a very good problem that needed to be solved. However, how they decided to go about it was kind of fucking dumb. Under the Agricultural Adjustment Act, basically the government would collect tax money and then take that tax money and give it to farmers in exchange for destroying or just not planting a portion of their crop. Farmers were literally paid by the government with US tax dollars to burn entire fields of crops. They killed over 6 million pigs and just let the meat rot, and they dumped out millions and millions of gallons of milk.
It's amazing what these fools just throw away. Oh well. One man's toxic sludge is another man's potpourri.
Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down as to why this was a stupid fucking idea, the people can't afford to buy food,
Yeah.
which meant the farmers couldn't sell food. So the government came in and said,
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
they then went to the people that can't afford food and took some of their money by force and then gave it to the farmers to then destroy the food that these people need to eat because they're starving. And then
prices
the
up.
prices of the food went up. So now the people that
Jesus.
already couldn't afford food definitely can't afford food. It's literally so stupid, it's evil. Luckily, we live in America. There's an entire system of checks and balances, and by 1936, the Agricultural Adjustment Act was deemed unconstitutional and overturned by the Supreme Court. So realizing that what he was
Jesus.
doing was stupid,
Seems like something our government would do at the moment, isn't it?
I know.
They're so anti-farmer that it's just they're being attacked.
I know. They want
But-
to take over all traditional farming and just like corporatize all of it.
That's someone who, like, economics 101 sort of thing, you know, and they've seen the supply and demand curve and they've just gone, but how do we get prices to go up? scarcity. Let's make scarcity, and then prices go up, and then the farmers get paid, and then they can produce more. It's like, well, the problem isn't the farmers not making money. The problem's people starving to death.
I know, yeah.
And you're going to burn the food and dump the milk and everything. How about you just pay the farmers to produce it, subsidise the farmers, and then give the stuff cheap to the people who are starving?
And stop bringing in like this inheritance tax. The people who have saved the money have paid tax on that to earn it, to save it.
I don't know if they've got inheritance tax in the States or not. But
okay, but basically inheritance tax is exactly what it sounds like. So
farmers
say your parents have like spent years working, have paid tax every day for their whole lives, of working lives. They then save money to give to you. You then have to pay inheritance tax to inherit that goddamn money. Same if like it's a house or anything which they've already paid interest on and taxes on.
You're allowed to, I think currently you're allowed to inherit £250,000 tax free. I don't know if that's changed recently, but that's what it used to be. But farms used to be inheritance tax free in this country, because there's a tradition of farmers handing down their farms to the next generation, next generation. The government have just brought in a 40% tax on inheriting a farm over £1 million.
Which is disgusting.
Which every farm in the country is worth more than £1 million. And it's like, if you've got 20 acres with a house on it in this country, regardless of where it is, that's £1 million.
I know.
And unless the children can raise £400,000, they can't inherit that farm.
Which is disgusting.
They have to sell it to pay the government £400,000
to then inherit the money, which means they've lost their family farm. And if you guys have seen Clarkson's Farm on Prime, highly recommend
Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah. It is a clear insight into how difficult lives are made for farmers in this country and the cost they incur. And we've got the worst weather pretty much in like most of the planet.
I saw an article today, funnily enough, about a family that are losing their family farm after 300 years because the kids can't afford the inheritance tax on the farm. That same family have handed it down for 300 years. Are you like...
It's disgusting.
Right, we're ranting a little bit, but it's to stop rich people who were buying up all of the land so that their kids didn't have to pay inheritance tax. So mega millionaires were buying up $20 million worth of land and then giving that to their kids so that there was no tax to pay on it. So really, it's supposed to be a tax on the mega rich, but it's putting farmers out of business.
And this is the problem: is a lot of these things that they bring in affects the little guy so badly.
It all does. It's nonsense. Anyway, ran over. I think our autism hates inheritance tax, apparently.
It's a form of communism.
Stupid, evil, and unconstitutional. FDR just let the idea go like any normal person would. No, I'm just kidding. He pretty much immediately issued another program that was basically identical, but it was just different enough to not be unconstitutional this go around, and that would buy him a couple of more years before they could shut him down again. And that was called the Agricultural Marketing Agreement Act of 1937. Now, coupled with that, in 1937, FDR realized that they're just going to overturn his policies again at the Supreme Court level. So he then attempted to pack the Supreme Court so that he had enough people in the Supreme Court to just pass his policies through, whether they were unconstitutional or not. At this point in time, the Supreme Court had 9 Supreme Court justices, and FDR put out a new policy and tried to force it through Congress that would allow him to appoint 6 more for a total of 15 Supreme Court justices. Now, this act that would allow FDR to appoint more Supreme Court justices did not make it through Congress, but a lot of historians believe the reason it didn't make it through Congress was because as soon as all of this added political pressure got placed on the Supreme Court, and it looked like they were going to lose some of their power by diluting the entire court, some of them switched their opinion over to start letting FDR's New Deal policies through. This is commonly referred to as the switch in time to save the 9, referring to some of the justices switching their opinion over to save the effectiveness of the Supreme Court. Basically, the Supreme Court got bullied into letting FDR do what he wanted, whether it was unconstitutional or not. So now that the Supreme Court is scared to shut down FDR for doing anything unconstitutional, in 1938, he reinstates a slightly modified version of the Agricultural Adjustment Act that they had already struck down. Buh! I don't know why you're making FDR seem like he was a bad president. He got us through World War II and he was a great guy. Buh! Okay, first of all, I don't know how he gets credit for getting us through World War II when he didn't even make it through World War II. He passed away before World War II ended. As for being a good guy, yeah, maybe, sure, as long as we're willing to overlook attempting to pack the Supreme Court so that he could continue to burn crops while Americans are starving, confiscating gold from American citizens via executive order, refusing to sign anti-lynching legislation because he didn't want to upset the Dixiecrat voter base in in the South, solidifying the Federal Reserve, hiding his disability from the American voter so that he could be the only president to serve more than 2 terms.
You're saying
Yes.
let's talk about fine.
Persecuting 600,000...
Right. I thought you could only do 2 terms.
I thought that, but he's clearly...
So how does hiding his... you know what? A lot of countries don't do elections during war times. So
right.
it may have been he carried on into a 3rd term because of the Second World War.
But
If they would have known that he was potentially on his
Disabled.
deathbed and disabled,
They wouldn't
there
have
could have
voted.
been a snap election or something,
Or an expectation for him to step down.
and someone else take over.
Jesus.
It's cracking,
Wow.
isn't it?
Do you know what? American history sounds like what the British are going through right now.
Well, I mean, the balance tipped after the Second World War, and now what happens in America usually happens here 20 years later.
It's true.
Bar certain things
Yeah.
that, that can't. Because we adopt so much of our culture nowadays from America, popular culture and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're already seeing people lobbying British political parties now in that same way that American political parties get lobbied.
Which I'd never experienced until the Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn election.
Yeah.
That was the first time I truly saw it. Never has this country been so divided.
Do you know what lobbying is in this country, though? If you are favourable towards a policy that benefits our business, then you can be a keynote speaker at our conferences every year for the next 5 years.
Wow.
And we will pay you £250,000 per keynote conference. You'll go up, you'll do a 20-minute speech to people. By the end of it, you've walked away with like 1.25 million or 2 million or whatever.
Jesus.
But that's happened once you're out of office and you're no longer a politician. It's deferred bribery. 100% deferred bribery.
So is this...
Allegedly, my opinion. But it's 100% deferred bribery.
Jesus Christ.
It's bad, isn't it?
It's so bad.
Goes on. That's the way the world turns, unfortunately.
Ow, I have a big bruise from crocheting.
Not a crochet bruise.
I've never had that before. I have been hammering the crochet though.
Saying
Yes.
let's talk about fine.
Persecuting 600,000 Italian Americans by declaring them an enemy of the state, where they were then subjected to confiscations, internment, and curfews, and then interning 125,000 Japanese Americans in camps where they lost their homes, their businesses, and had to stay there for years for no reason other than the fact that we were at war with Japan, and their family or they came
Right, no, they
over
talked about
from
that one,
Japan
but
to
the
America because they
Italians-
thought America was better. So yeah, if we're willing to...
We did that to the Japanese as well. I don't know if we did it to the Italians.
Well, we would have done it during the war as well. It's still
No,
unacceptable.
that's what he's saying during the war.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think it was maybe the Isle of Man, or it was one of the islands off. That it was like there was internment camps for Japanese people.
We're a horrible, horrible species.
overlook all that, he sounds chill as fuck. Probably a great guy. I'm getting sidetracked, I'm sorry. So this is the political landscape we have going into World War II. So World War II happens, America raises a massive army. I think it totaled in almost 16 million men throughout the course of World War II. Wow. And obviously, you gotta feed 16 million men. And one of the easiest food products to actually buy up and then preserve and ship across an entire ocean without it going bad happened to be raisins. So the United States is now buying up a ton of raisins. So obviously, the demand goes up, meaning the price goes up, meaning more people start making fucking raisins to sell to the US government, because that's how capitalism works. Fast forward, World War II ends, the entire military gets to come back home, resume civilian life. The military shrinks dramatically, meaning that you've got less men to feed, meaning that the US government quits buying so many raisins. Now, all the service members could go home and buy raisins on their own if they liked raisins, but guess what? Nobody fucking likes raisins, so nobody's buying the raisins. The price plummets, at which point capitalism should probably kick in again, and the growers are gonna realize, oh, there's not a huge market for raisins anymore, I should probably do something else. Now that's what should happen, but in this particular instance, the government, for whatever reason, decides, you know what? I like raisins. I think we should keep overproducing raisins, and then the government will come up with some solution on how to stabilize the price of raisins.
This looks familiar. Where have I seen this before? Let me think.
Which is great.
I need to see that one.
I was just about to mention that.
Where have I seen this before?
I was just about to say that the US government has sat on
That's mental.
crazy amounts of cheese
We need to see
in
that one.
bunkers, and they're spending millions every year to keep the cheese in bunkers.
Why?
It's fascinating. I've seen that one because we did it at the Office Blokes like
I need
2
to see
years
it.
ago or
I
something.
need to see it.
We'll do that. We'll do it if you want.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact nuances of it, but it's absurd.
I can't wait. I love stuff like this.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Which is great news, because if the US government has a long, proven track record of doing anything at all good, it's obviously stabilizing things. I mean, look at the Middle East. So the government says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Under the authority of the Agricultural Management Agreement Act of 1937, we're going to use that authority to create a new government entity that we're going to call the Raisin Administration Committee. We're going to have a whole government entity at the federal level solely committed to raisins. Now, right off the bat, that sounds kind of dumb, but don't worry, it gets way worse, because the Raisin Administration Committee is actually directly under the authority of the Department of Agriculture. And the reason that's a big deal is because the Department of Agriculture was founded with executive authority in 1862, meaning that the Department of Agriculture is part of the executive branch of the United States government, which more or less means whatever policies they adopt internally are basically de facto written into law, and if anybody disagrees, they have to take them to court and prove that it was unconstitutional, which is a gigantic hurdle that takes years. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that the federal government just created a new federal entity for raisins that has executive authority. So the Raisin Administration Committee immediately gets to work stabilizing the price of raisins, aka driving the price of raisins up, even though they shouldn't cost that much. So they get to work at doing it, and the plan they come up with how to do it is they're going to go to every raisin grower, farmer, manufacturer, however you want to do that. You fucking grow grapes and then you leave them out in the sun, whatever that guy is. They go to those guys and they're like, hey, here's the new policy that we've just written into law under nobody's authority. The new rule, the new law, is that you're going to have to give us a certain percentage of your crop every year based on however much we decide you're going to give us, and you have zero recourse. We're going to take it for a grand total of free 99. We're not going to give you shit, and we're going to hoard it in the National Raisin Reserve. Now, once they're in the National Raisin Reserve, we can go ahead and do whatever the fuck we want with them. A lot of the times we're donating them to the military.
What on earth?
That should be what they call nationalised old people's homes. The National Raisin Reserve.
You're terrible. You're terrible.
We're not going to give you shit, and we're going to hoard it in the National Raisin Reserve. Now, once they're in the National Raisin Reserve, we can go ahead and do whatever the fuck we want with them. A lot of the times we're donating them to the military for rations. We're donating them to schools for school lunch programs. This is why every person my age and 20 years older than me and probably younger than me has eaten a shit ton of these in elementary school. It's because the government was getting them for free by stealing them from farmers. Now, to be completely fair and intellectually honest, there was a way that the farmers could make some money from the National Raisin Reserve, and that was if the administration committee decided that they weren't going to donate it to school programs or the military or sit there and let it rot, which they did to a ton of raisins. They just literally rotted and they had to throw them away. If the entity did decide that they wanted to sell some of the raisins to a foreign market that didn't interfere with the American raisin price, whatever they sold that for, the farmers would get a kickback. But if they did sell it, it was at a highly reduced rate, and the money amounted to nowhere near the cost of actually growing the raisins. Okay, do you understand what has happened? This is literally a raisin cartel. Like, this isn't clickbait. This isn't, oh, the fat electrician came up with a funny name for his YouTube title. No, the definition of cartel is literally, and I quote, an association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and restricting competition. It is straight up a raisin cartel.
People, listen up. This is a national security emergency. We have an imminent threat.
The Raisin Administration Committee is literally rolling up to every raisin grower in the country saying, give me a cut or else. And this goes on from 1949 until 2015. But the hero of our story comes into play in 2002. And that hero is a humble raisin farmer by the name of Marvin Horne, who in 2000/2003 was told by the Raisin Administration Committee that this year they would be confiscating 47% of his crop and giving him fucking nothing in return. Just so we're on the same page, the federal government rolled up to a raisin farmer and said, hey, I'm gonna steal 47% of your crop, but don't worry, you can keep the other 53%. But I just need to mention, once you sell that 53% of your raisin crop, that's gonna count as income, and you're gonna have to pay income taxes. And then whatever money is left, you can have to spend on whatever you want. But whenever you spend that money, I'm also gonna charge you sales tax. It's literally the mafia. Anytime money moves, you gotta give the grape father a cut, okay? You're dealing with the grape fellas. I'm so sorry. Okay, one. I did one dad joke. I'm done.
I thought Diddy was the grape father.
Oh, God.
That is
horrific. What?
Sorry, but and again, that is sort of what our government is starting to do with absolutely everything.
It is.
That's not the land of the free. I'm sorry.
It's not.
But I would have pivoted years ago and become a winemaker, and it would have been a vineyard, and I would have not gone near grapes.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, but then I bet the alcohol duties and stuff are through the roof as well.
Yeah. What
can you do with grapes that doesn't involve shitloads of tax? Other than just sell maybe grapes.
Well, Americans love grape juice. It's not a thing over here in the UK.
You can get it.
You can get it, but it's not really a thing.
It tends to be dark purple, so it's not. He keeps showing green grapes there. I don't know if raisins come from green or purple or red or whatever.
I would say purple.
I would say that, but they showed that guy with green grapes.
True. I don't know.
Anyway.
But Americans like grape juice.
I like grape juice. It just is alcoholic grape juice. It's my favourite drink, actually. Guinness and grape juice.
Right.
Okay, it's just the entire situation is completely unreasonable. Yeah, babe.
Nick, oh my God, I missed my period.
I know.
What do you mean you know?
I heard it through the grapevine.
Goodbye.
Anyways, by this point, Marvin Horne is driven to the brink. He can't stay in business functioning like this, so he's just driven to the edge, and he finally stands up for himself and he says, no, I'm not going to keep living like this. I'm not going to give you 47% of my entire crop. I'm going to keep everything that I own, and I'm going to sell it myself. And the Raisin Cartel is immediately furious.
Playing with my money is like playing with my emotions.
So the Raisin Administration Committee orders him to pay back the value of the raisins to the committee, approximately $400,000. And then, because he wasn't a good little boy that just forked over half of his living, they decided they were also going to fine him an additional $200,000 for his disobedience, which apparently is completely legal because they have executive authority, which means apparently you can do whatever the fuck you want all the time and it's not against the rules. So Marvin Horne realizes he's going to have to defend himself, so he starts looking into the law, and he starts at the first place that you should always start, the Constitution. Okay, Amendment number 1 says I can pray to whoever I want and say whatever I want, and you're not allowed to stop me. Amendment number 2 says I have guns if you disagree with the first one, and rule number 3 says I don't have to have soldiers sleep in my house. Rule number 4 says no unreasonable searches and seizures. Oh, here we are, rule number 5, where it clearly says, and I quote, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Sounds to me like it's a pretty clear-cut case of it's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. So obviously, they go to court. Marvin Horne wins immediately because he can literally read the 5th bullet point of the founding document of the entire fucking... No, I'm just kidding. A 12-year legal battle ensues that goes all the way to the Supreme Court, gets kicked back down into another district court, and then goes back to the Supreme Court again. So after a damn near 13-year-long legal battle, Marvin Horne finally wins with the Supreme Court siding in his favor in an 8-1 decision. And this is the part where I wish I could end the video just saying like, hooray, the good guys finally won in the end, and it all worked out, and we all got together and sang Kumbaya by the fireplace. The Raisin Administration Committee lost its federal status, and they just became a lobbying group. The Federal Raisin Reserve evaporated into thin air, and it all went away, and all was right in the world. But my brain doesn't work that way because I have to know who the Supreme Court justice was that voted against Marvin Horne. So I looked into it, and of course, it was Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor. So I went, I found her dissenting opinion where she wrote it up. I'm not going to read it to you guys because it's like 20 pages and it's all in lawyer jargon. But the abbreviated version of her argument was she didn't believe what the Raisin Administration Committee was doing was technically a taking. And her justification for that was, well, technically, even though the Raisin Administration Committee did in fact take his shit without his permission, they could have potentially, if they decided to, sold some of those raisins. And if they did sell some of those raisins, they were going to give him a small portion of the proceeds. Therefore, that's not technically a taking.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Yeah. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yeah. Do you understand how violently...
What do you think people who rob you do with your stuff?
Sell it. Do they give you a profit for it? No.
Sell it. And you think in court they get to go, well, I could have... I was going to give him a portion of the money I got for selling his stolen phone. No.
No.
Oh my God.
It's, yeah.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Do you understand how violently stupid that opinion is? Okay, like let's apply this logic to any other situation, okay? Let's say that I'm a burglar and I break into your house. I sit you there on the table and I take 47% of all the shit in your house. I steal it, I walk away, I'm fucking gone. Later, the cops catch me, okay? And while I'm arrested in handcuffs and they take me into court, I look the judge in the face and I go, well, Your Honor, technically it wasn't me being a burglar and stealing because I was considering selling some of their shit at a heavy discount to a pawn shop. And if I did that, I had every intention of giving them some of the money back later. Do you think the judge would let me not go to prison? No, because that's fucking dumb. Okay, I don't even know how I got here. Okay, like a week ago, I got an email. Somebody said like, hey, fat electrician, you should look into Marvin Horne, the raisin farmer that defeated the federal government. And now I have this conspiracy theory about how FDR created a raisin cartel that extorted raisin farmers for 70 years straight. And I'm making a video for the internet, probably pissing off the Raisin Cartel, and now I need to go into witness protection because they're going to come and sun dry me and my whole family. I have to go. I got to go get ready for an altercation with the Raisin Mafia, I think. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Raisin.
And now we wait. Yeah, babe.
You just got a weird package from the Raisin Administrative Company.
Oh no.
Do not open.
Made me jump that.
That was
unbelievable.
It was a great video.
You know, this is why I understand why conspiracies exist in our world. And I don't disregard quite a few of the conspiracies. They make a lot of sense. It's when they start going into like aliens and stuff that I start to go.
Well, the thing is, one person's raisins is another person's aliens. No one's ever said that phrase before in history.
I need to spat my drink out.
I watched a true crime thing the other day that was interrogation footage of a woman who had killed her ex-boyfriend, I think it was. Can't remember the exact ins and outs, but she was a postal worker and she was supposed to be on her route at the time. But she said she stopped off at her boyfriend's house, and then from her boyfriend's house, it turned out she actually went and killed her ex-boyfriend. I think it was the dad of her kids.
Right.
And the police didn't get anywhere interviewing her, so they leave. For the second interview, do you know who came in? Postal worker.
Okay.
A postal worker, because they are federal agents. And literally, the guy was sat there. She requested. It was weird. She requested a lawyer.
They mentioned this in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, they have authority.
Yeah, they do.
But she requested a lawyer. The police said no. No, they didn't say no. They said we have to end the interview here.
Yeah.
But then a postal worker came in later, and she didn't have a lawyer, and he sat and had a conversation with her. But then he managed to get her to admit certain things, and the whole time I'm like, I checked the comment section because I know that postal workers have got an element of authority.
Yeah, but surely they would still require a lawyer.
That's what I was checking the comments for, because I was like, is that a loophole?
Maybe the loophole was that she asked it for the cops, not for a federal agent. So they could say that in court was like, well, yeah, she asked for a lawyer for the police officers, but they didn't say anything about a federal agent.
Maybe it could be considered that she was having some sort of disciplinary action from her employer or something. I don't know.
How weird.
But he wasn't just a postman, obviously,
no,
but he was a postal worker that was high up in some sort of department. And he sat with her and she was like, but you're a postal worker. And he was like, listen, I've dealt with loads of these sorts of cases. And he was talking to her like a cop. So, like, you know, the federal stuff, it gets confusing a little bit.
Just a bit.
Can you imagine if...
but it's the separate, like, they have sheriffs, they have local police, they have FBI. It's a little confusing.
Rangers. Texas have got the Texas Rangers, haven't they?
Well.
Which they were originally the people that were fighting the Indians.
Mm-hmm. Native Americans.
I think at that point it was like cowboys and Indians sort of thing.
Okay.
Do you know why they were called Indians? Allegedly.
Allegedly, because Christopher Columbus thought he'd landed. He'd actually
thought he'd sailed to India.
Yeah.
And said they were Indians, and then it just stuck.
I think that's a myth.
I don't know if it's true or not. Who knows? I've got no idea. That was a great one, though. I really enjoyed that.
That was so fascinating. We have to see the cheese one, the cheese vault one. I know you've probably done it, but
I have done it over at the Office Blokes, but when we do it, you should watch ours instead, because it'll be a much better
What? Because I'm so well liked.
Sure. Fat electrician cheese. There we go. Add it to the watch later.
Yeah.
He's got some great videos, hasn't he?
I know.
Right. Cheers for watching that one, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed that.
I did.
Yeah. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll catch you again soon.
Bye, guys.